We've got a lot to catch up on, and I'm not talking about Taylor Swift, so I'm sorry if you came here for that. No, but here's what I do have. We're going to talk about the best of the best with my first official power rankings going out this week. I'm going to present the best players and the best plays on offense and on defense over the last 2 weeks. And we're going to spend a little bit more time on the Miami Dolphins than everyone else because fucking wow. So stick around, we got a great show for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now rocking with American Sports Football Show.
The Falcons, Ravens, Cowboys, and the Bucks suffer their first losses of the season, along with the Commanders too. The Bengals, Cardinals, Patriots, and Texans get their first wins of the season, along with the Chargers too. The Broncos, Bears, Panthers, and Vikings remain completely beaten. The internet, like usual, has been running wild with the hottest and coldest NFL takes of all time. But luckily, here at American Sports, we've come to set the record straight with these teams, with our very first power rankings of the year. And if my voice is kind of hoarse, it's because I was yelling at my Bengals, but we got the job done. Yeah, a non-holding call potentially keeps this team from being 3-0. However, we cannot base much off of woulda, coulda, shoulda. Or you can make a bunch of cases for every single team in every single game. Anyways, the team reminds me of last season a bit too much. A serious case of the injury bug plagues them. While that isn't their fault, it's the truth. They're also starting off well in the first halves of each game for the most part. Then losing the leads, they almost lost it to Cincinnati, who wasn't playing near on their level. Joe Burrow is clearly still not himself. And praying that Justin Tucker, their legendary kicker, bails them out at the end of the game once again, like he's done time and time again over the years. And that is the good part for Baltimore. To me, that they're 2-1 with lots of room for improvement for Lamar. Lamar right now is not close to the level he was at last year, but he's getting there. This is still a really good football team. They could definitely climb up in these rankings for sure. That has me, as a Bengals fan, a little bit nervous, and I can fully admit that. And they'd be higher up still, but you'll see why I picked the other teams here in a second. Both have 2 wins in a row, both being on the road. One of them being against the top 10 team by my rankings with their backup quarterback. Make no mistake, that was a massive statement to beat the Ravens in Baltimore, a team that pretty much starts hot every year under Lamar. Looking ahead, this is a very winnable division that puts you in plus territory for the Colts, opportunity-wise. And they'll get Jonathan Taylor back in a couple of weeks. So you've got Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and Zach Moss just wreaking havoc in the rush game. Also, this defense seems to be a lot better than I thought they were going to be after losing all those pieces in the offseason. They have a plus 4-point differential, which is a stat that I hold in high regard. They're young and they're improving. I'm honestly really leaning on the fact that this is a weak division, and the Jaguars haven't had the start that pretty much everyone thought that they would have. Even though they did lose to that team, they get a chance to play them again later down the road. As their next 3 games are all very winnable, versus the Rams, versus the Titans, and then at Jacksonville. An ugly loss to start the season has put a blemish on their power rankings potential, but since then Seattle has almost scored at will. Yep, Seattle came in and dropped 37 in Detroit. Scoring 37 not just in Detroit, but for 2 straight weeks. There's been no answer for Kenneth Walker III, who should have been Offensive Rookie of the Year last year, but hey, that's neither here nor there. Add the fact that Bobby Wagner has come back to the team rejuvenated, and Jamal Adams is set to make his season debut. I think the defense is only getting warmed up here. I also look ahead to the next 3 games, and I like where they're headed. I look at this team at either 4-2 after the next power rankings video that you will see from me, or possibly 5-1, depending on if they beat Cincinnati or not. The point differential and the ugly week 1 showing is the only thing holding this team back from being higher up. Yeah, I kind of can't believe that I have the Browns this high up either, but man, have they put a shellacking down on the teams that they did beat. They lose to Pittsburgh in week 2. That's kind of what they always do. But I will say that I believe had Nick Chubb not gone down, the Cleveland Browns would have won that game. They had the momentum, and TJ Watt won Pittsburgh that game. Steelers fans, I know you're going to be hot about having the Browns ahead of Pittsburgh. And to a certain degree, you are definitely correct. I mean, you're both 2-1, and you beat this team. But the Browns are way ahead of you in point differential, and they haven't gotten blown out yet. I think this team is going to be incredible at home. They may even go undefeated at home throughout the year. On the road is where I think they're going to get tested, but Deshaun Watson seems to be getting better each week, and that can only be a good thing. We're really going to get even more of a Cleveland tester, as their next 4 games are against opponents that I have currently ranked in the power ranking top 10. But I do think this team is up for the task, especially when they have matchups against bad offensive linemen. That's when they eat. To me, this looks like a team that was not ready to play Arizona, because you should not overlook anyone in the NFL. That's when you get beat. And that might have happened. I don't know. But let me tell you, you cannot sleep on Arizona. Have the Cardinals not blown that huge lead to the Giants, the Cardinals would be 2-1, and it would be probably the most amazing story of the NFL so far. For the people who like to rag on Dallas, this gives them the perfect fuel for the fire, with Dak making some bad decisions late in that game, and they were down the whole time in that game, right from the start. But all of that said, I think the Cowboys are 100% okay despite losing Diggs. And they're, at the very worst, to me, the 3rd best team in the NFC. So overall, I think they're going to learn from this, and they will be better. A Week 5 matchup at the 49ers will really test this out. Since the Week 1 debacle of Josh Allen and the Bills having a ton of turnovers, no sugarcoating it, they have completely kicked ass the last 2 weeks. As really, the Bills have looked unstoppable these last 2 weeks. They did beat the Commanders, who were 2-0 at the time. They turned over Sam Howell a ton. They're a plus 56 point differential, which is number 2 in the NFL, or right behind the team that they play in Week 4, the Dolphins. And man, I cannot wait for the Dolphins and the Bills game. Also, the Bills are number 2 in scoring, which is also just behind the Miami Dolphins. Already, for the division, for the morale, and possibly the 2 hottest teams in the league, you could say, are these teams right here. Buffalo's next 3 games are against the Dolphins, the Jaguars, and the Giants. They get all 3 at home, so look for this team to be on the rise, even if they do lose to Miami. It almost feels like a crime to put this team outside of the top 3. I do not believe that they will take Arizona likely like the Cowboys sort of did. I think this is the difference between them and Dallas right now. And to me, Brock Purdy has improved. He has taken that year 2 step up. The eye test passes for Brock Purdy. Even though he started a bit off with his throws against the Giants last week, he righted the ship real quick. He, McCaffrey, and the 49ers together is all about touchdowns and wins. Debo is due to have a major bounce back season. I'll say it again, a major bounce back season. It's almost inevitable in my view. This is firmly the 2nd best team in the NFC. You could argue them number 1, but I have them number 2, which sets them up, so far at least, to make the NFC Championship, which is par for the course for this team, as they seem to live in the NFC Championship. Their next 3 games are against the Cardinals, home for the Cowboys, and then at Cleveland. Honestly, this team has just begun. They're the reigning Super Bowl champions who now have Taylor Swift on their side. I mean, we're all fucked, right? Their schedule is very weak to me. They'll walk away with the division. That's not the problem here. The 1 loss is the only reason they're not number 1, as they'll probably win the next 4 or 5 games in a row. Maybe even more than that. Let's be real, Chiefs deniers. There were a lot of you after week 1 that really tried to say that the Chiefs were dead, and that's just the craziest overreaction I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, they're a contending team, like always. As long as Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes are in their prime and together, they're going to be a contending team. They're in the middle of a dynasty right now, and this is coming from a Bengals fan. I don't hate the Chiefs, though. I think it's great football. And I'm always down to watch great football. I obviously want to win those games, but hey, it's at the end of the day, what we're getting is really something special to watch, and we should enjoy it. The next 3 games are at the Jets, at the Vikings, and versus the Broncos. Yeah, they're they're probably going to be 5-1. This team right now is easily the most fun to watch. Even before they put up 70, I thought they were the most fun to watch, but now, definitely. I find myself really liking this squad. I mean, I can't really help it. I have always been fascinated with Tyreek Hill, who to me is the best wide receiver in the world. Mostert is amazing. He's just been plagued with injury, and I do hope that he stays healthy all season long because he's an amazing running back to watch. And I also really like Tua, who seems to be a down-to-earth dude. I do not understand the criticism he has surrounding his football play. I just don't get it. It just doesn't add up to me when I see Tua play. And this team is lightning fast, which also adds to the fun element, but an absolute nightmare to guard. Why? Because they're 3-0 and they just put up 70 on the Denver Broncos. Yeah, I know you might think, well, it's the Denver Broncos. They're 0-3, but I don't care. That's an NFL team out there. Broncos would make it a 14-7 game in the first quarter, but after the first quarter, the game just went all to hell. The Dolphins would then score 21 in the second quarter, and then they scored 21 points again in the fourth quarter when they weren't even trying anymore. They're 2-0 on the road. The lowest that they've scored is 24. Through 3 games, they've scored 130 total points. No one has even broken 100 yet. So the question is, can they keep it up? And when I say keep it up, I don't mean score 70 points again. I mean just keep winning and be highly versatile on offense while also being pretty decent on defense too. So to me, the answer is yes. So they've won a shootout already with the Chargers. They've won a slower paced game with the divisional rival in the Patriots. And they absolutely blew the doors off of the Denver Broncos, who actually haven't been playing that bad. But yeah, that's where I am with the Dolphins. They should absolutely be the talk of the NFL right now. If they do win in Buffalo next week, I think they absolutely run away with the division. This team deserves it. You could argue Miami. Last year's NFC champs, who came just seconds away from being Super Bowl champs, do not appear to have any type of Super Bowl hangover whatsoever. And if they did have one, I haven't noticed it. The fact that they can still play better is the scariest thing for anyone else. The defense seems to be ahead of their offense, which is just sickening to me. I predicted that this team would start at least 5-0. If you go back and look at my predictions, you can see that. But for the defense to be even more prepared than I expected tells me that this team has a high chance of being undefeated by the next time my rankings releases in 3 weeks. And that would also make my predictions of them pretty damn accurate, I would say. Dallas and San Fran are both capable of stopping this team from scoring, but I don't really see a defense in the AFC, at least as of yet, as of this time, that could. So if this Philly team goes back to the Super Bowl, I think it's very likely that they win the Super Bowl this time around, with Jason Kelce retiring off into the sunset as a 2-time Super Bowl champion. As the Lions and the Steelers, I would have the Lions at 11 and the Steelers 12. Lions did beat the Chiefs in Week 1, and the Steelers did beat the Browns in Week 2, who are both obviously ranked. But in the Steelers' case, if you remember Week 1 of last season, the Steelers beat the Bengals, but I don't think there was anyone outside of a couple of Steelers fans that actually believed they were better than the Bengals. And this is the case that I'm seeing right now this year with the Browns. Bucks at 13, Packers at 14, and the Saints at 15. I do think the Saints finished that game against the Packers with a win if Derek Carr doesn't go down, but that's not what happened. We're on to the offensive players of the week. We're also doing the defensive players of the week and the touchdowns of the week. And since I wasn't here, I was on vacation last week, we're going to combine weeks 2 and 3 together. And yeah, this goes to running back Raheem Mostert. He's had 6 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks, and 5 of them are rushing touchdowns, 1 a receiving touchdown. He's number 6 in total rushing yards, and he's number 8 in rushing first downs. You could honestly pick between 3 Dolphins here. You could go Mostert, you could go Tua, or you could go Tyreek Hill. And also at number 2 should probably also be a Dolphin. But I'm gonna spice it up and I'm gonna go more fun and pick someone other than a Miami member. And I'm gonna go with quarterback Justin Herbert. In a must-win situation in week 3, in my opinion, you can't start 0-3. Herbie was basically perfect in their first victory of the season over the Vikings. Herbert has thrown for 710 passing yards over the last 2 weeks with 5 passing touchdowns and a completion percentage of 76.1% over the last 2 weeks. Defensive Players of the Weeks goes to TJ Watt of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's number 1 in the NFL in sacks through 3 weeks. Steelers do not beat the Browns without the presence of TJ Watt and his touchdown against the Browns on defense. And number 2, I got Danielle Hunter, linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings. He's number 2 in the NFL in sacks through 3 weeks. Had 4 of those sacks in the last 2 weeks alone with a forced fumble. The Minnesota's defense overall is not helping anybody. They're awful. But that's not because of Danielle Hunter. Now we go to touchdowns of the week, and for week 2, I go to Shaq Barrett's pick 6 in the 4th quarter to basically seal the deal and move the Bucs to 2-0. In week 3, I go to wide receiver Joshua Palmer for the Chargers touchdown in the 4th quarter that was batted by a Vikings defender, but he still had the focus to catch that ball, which ended up giving the Chargers their first win of the year. That's going to do it for our first power rankings and our second NFL show of the year. Thank you for watching, and if you liked it, consider subscribing to America Sports Today. We've got rankings, we've got highlights of the NFL and basketball with the NBA on the horizon. It's an exciting time, sports fans. Have a great day. I could take this crowd from seeing to believe.